My f21 boyfriend, m23, wants to have a marriage ceremony, but refuses to get legally married. As the title says, my boyfriend wants to be committed with me but doesn't want to be legally married. For some background, we have been together for 5 years. And his parents are divorced, and he claims that if something were to ever happen with us, the court would be unfair in what each of us receive. He also claims that not being legally married doesn't change the relationship. That we can still be husband and wife, just without the papers. He has also said that he just doesn't want the government to be involved with his personal relationships. I, however, have 2 parents who are both still married, so I am having trouble seeing it this way. I would be okay to not sign the papers and still have a ceremony. But I am a bit worried without that legal fallback. Basically, I was wondering if anyone is or knows someone who is not legally married. And I would like to get some other opinions on this thought. Get a prenuptial agreement. That way your assets are yours, and his assets are his. Don't get married at your age. First off, you both sounds like children playing house. He claims that if something were to ever happen with us, the court would be unfair in what each of us receive. This is literally what a prenup is for. You both agree to keep your own money. Agree in advance a fair way to split residences purchased during marriage, etc. He has also said that he just doesn't want the government to be involved with his personal relationships. The government literally regulates everything in our lives. This is a lame excuse. They regulate healthcare, roads, housing, education, and more recently even your uterus. Maybe you just have different wants in the relationship. Better to find out now than 10 years from now. Mention a fair prenuptial agreement, and if he still doesn't agree, have 2 choices. 1. Accept that you're never going to get married to him. 2. Accept that you're still young. And 5 years isn't really that long in the context of adulthood. And you should break up and find someone else who wants the same things you want. I'm worried about where he's getting his information, because that sounds like some red pill stuff. That said, whether a legal marriage is important depends a lot on what plan you have for your life. Do you plan to have children? Do you plan to stay home with them for any period of time? Or otherwise sacrifice your career in support of the family? If you buy a house together, will you both be on the deed? Ditto for any other major property. Is there a big income discrepancy between the 2 of you? If so, will you live in such a way that the person with the lower income can handle the expenses alone if need be? Do you have your own insurance and retirement account? How about savings? Do you want to be each other's decision makers in case of a medical emergency, and have you signed documents to that effect? I'm a woman who is going through a divorce, and when it is done I'm going to rent for a while and then buy a house on my own. Once I've done that, I definitely will not legally marry anybody. I know that my house wouldn't probably be marital property since I would already own it. But if I should die first, I still want the house to go to my daughter. I also don't want to be legally tied to anybody who might run up debts or just complicate my life, legally and financially. But I have thought about if I met the right person, doing some kind of a ceremony if they wanted some kind of official commitment. So I can empathize with what he's saying. But if the legal marriage is important to you, you need to consider whether this relationship is right for you. If it's not important to you, then you just really need to make sure that you protect yourself and don't end up in a position where you're dependent on him and he can just take it all away. I would honestly recommend talking to a lawyer, because nobody else is really going to be able to think of all the possible scenarios and tell you what the best thing is to do. The court will be fair and not take into account bitter emotions in the divorce. He can get a prenup if he wants to dictate what he sees as fair. But long-term relationship with no marriage is risky. The government will get involved one way or the other. Your boyfriend has been spending too much time on the internet or listening to a spiteful father. If he's concerned about the courts being unfair, then the two of you need to both get with a lawyer each and negotiate a prenup that the two of you think is fair. As long as the prenup is valid, then the court is going to follow that. Don't do this farce. This is his way of supposedly getting married to you, but actually making no kind of commitment to you. So he can walk in anytime and it's just like a normal breakup. You will have no ability to make medical decisions for each other. If you need to, you don't get the tax benefits. You can't be on each other's health insurance policies. And a whole host of other things you will miss out on with not being legally married. I'm 42 and I've been with my BF since we were 17. We aren't married BC. We don't see the point, and the thought of a wedding gives both of us anxiety to the max. A wedding would be torture rather than enjoyable. We don't have a problem getting married at the courthouse if we need to at some point. The difference between us and your BF that I can see from your post and comments is that we aren't married BC. There hasn't been a need for it, but your BF doesn't want to share his hypothetical future fortune with you. That is a huge red flag emo. My BF and I have always shared every dollar we make. If he doesn't want to get married, he doesn't have to. However, you shouldn't have a fake wedding. Marriage would give you both some protection as far as next of kin type things, medical decisions, for instance, and filing joint taxes. A prenup can help with the division of assets in case of a divorce. You're only 21/23, so you still have years to decide on marriage. There's no rush. What magical assets does this 23-yo have that he's so worried you'll get more of in a divorce? Not sure where you live, but in every state I've lived in within the US, assets acquired prior to marriage are off limits. And in many states, common law marriage is recognized at a certain point of years, and then from an asset standpoint, anything acquired together is joint property and would be split as such. Personally, my partner and I don't plan to be legally married to each other or have a wedding. We were both married before, and anything we need to organize legally around life insurance, medical POA, etc. can be done without marriage. But you two have to get aligned. Seems to me that he's kind of misinformed on the legal aspect, and maybe him understanding the law where you live would assuage his fears. An important thing about getting married: legal rights. Besides the financial stuff, hospital visitation rights, custody if you have kids, who gets to make medical decisions in an emergency, etc. Definitely something to look into and think about. Lol girl, you're too young for this nonsense. Just stop with this foolishness. Yes, of course you can have a ceremony and then never file the paperwork with the government, so the boogeyman doesn't get into your relationship. Is this really what you want? To marry someone so uneducated and paranoid? At 21? My strong advice would be to dump him, reliably believing that you won't do that. My second strongest advice is to get a lawyer and have a discussion about prenups, divorce, how alimony works, how alimony is calculated, who pays, how child support works and is calculated, how dividing assets for an unmarried couple works, how healthcare, and many other important decisions work for an unmarried versus married couple, etc. Educate yourself and then make the educated decision. Don't just sit there listening to him. If marriage is what you want, break up with him. He doesn't believe in marrying you. Find someone who does. As long as you are young and not in any financial commitment together or have children together, you can be fine with not being married. The moment you take out a mortgage together or have children, you are normally much better off being married. Also, at that point, the ceremony, wedding, is the least important bit. If you are at that point in the relationship, a 5-minute procedure at the registrar's office is enough. There are a lot of insurance issues, property rights issues, etc., that are sorted out through the shorthand of marriage. It might be different in different countries, but where I live, if you or your partner suddenly dies and you have children together, you are not entitled to sell your house without the go-ahead from a notary kind of institution. A good officer who represents the children's interest in the property. Whereas if you are married and one of you suddenly dies, you get full control of the property. He seems to think that one of his parents came out at a disadvantage when they divorced. It could be useful to explore that a bit with him when he is in a calm mood, to understand where his skepticism comes from. Whole lot to dissect here. 1. Don't get married so young. Live a little more of your life and make this decision when you're a little older. 2. While a lot of these comments are pretty spot on, marriage is not for everyone. I've been married and divorced, and I can't see myself ever being legally married again, but I do want a long-term relationship. I understand some people aspire to marriage, but commitment is commitment, and there's something really brutally beautiful in knowing that you're committing your life to someone without it being a legal decision. 3. If his only concern about being married is that he's afraid of losing his things if you divorce, discuss a prenup. When courts divide assets, they take a number of things into account. These include non-financial contributions, the impact of children on a person's capacity to earn, the need for children to be adequately housed. There is nothing unfair about this. They are also things that tend to predominantly impact women who, research shows, make the most non-financial contributions and are primary caregivers. Your boyfriend seems to be of the view that only financial contributions should be taken into account. I would be extremely wary of building any kind of future with him. Are you living together at the moment? How are chores divided? If you want kids, I would not have them without being legally married. And I'd be reconsidering my future with this guy. He is making it clear he will prioritize himself and has no issue with screwing you over. 1. You are too young to get married. Point 2. Courts are fairly fair in what people receive. When men start spouting off about divorce being unfair, it tends to come from a place of misinformed misogyny. Does he have any other views that might align with this? If so, that is a very, very big red flag. Is he generally afraid of women winning in the eyes of the law? Does he see women as privileged? Does he think women often screw over men? 3. Legal marriage offers a lot of benefits. Is he willing to go through legal hoops to get those benefits? What happens if one of you gets sick? What about inheritance? Next of kin? Why does he want to deny you those benefits? You are both very young. Just tell him if he's not ready to get married yet, you'll wait. Up to a point. If marriage is important to you, there are billions of other fish in the sea. Also, you're both in your early 20s. I doubt anyone has significant assets. He's being really weird and misogynistic. You're 21. Now is the perfect time to leave and find someone who understands that a relationship is a partnership. You are 21. Way too young to be worried about marriage. In my country, people get married in their 30s.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.